Hey there, it's Allison from OnlineTeacherAllison.com, where stay-at-home moms go to learn how to teach online so they can earn an income from home. And today we are talking all about the challenges you can face while teaching online. And I really went back and forth on whether or not I wanted to do this because I love teaching online and I want you to love it as much as I do. But I want you to go in with eyes wide open and understanding the pros and the cons, because me as a planner, that's important to me. And so I want to give you everything as well. So today we're going to hit some of the most common challenges. By no means is this a full list. Your personality may have different challenges than my personality, but I do want to give you some things that you can expect and start preparing for as you start preparing for your first lessons, or maybe you're already in your lessons and you're starting to find out yourself. All right, so let's get into it. So the biggest issue with teaching online that you learn quickly how to overcome are tech issues. And they can be your tech issues on your end, or they can be on your student's end. So let's start with your end first, because this is what you can most prepare for before it starts. So what I did to help prevent any sort of tech issues is I first looked at my internet provider, and we don't pay for the most basic level. We actually pay for, it's either one or two tiers up for basic. We pay for the gigabyte, which we don't usually get, especially when I'm online during the day. My husband gets it overnight, but we pay for more, so we get faster upload speeds. And I also have a router. It's right here on my desk. So we have one in the living room for like the majority of the house, but we also have one right here that I can plug directly into my computer. But there's also the off chance of, so I live in Oklahoma, thunderstorms, they wipe out the power, right? There's also the chance of that. And if you still want to teach, I also have hotspot on my phone that I can connect to really quickly. And it does drain battery. But in a pinch, if I needed to teach, I have hotspot on my phone that I can connect to my computer. I don't pay extra for hotspot. I just have what our phone plan already has because it's not my main source of internet. If it was, you might want to pay, you'd probably want to pay extra, right? Now, a word of warning with hotspots and thunderstorms. I did it once and did not think all the way through. And I was teaching in the dark. So consider that when you're thinking about canceling your classes or teaching through it, because in this scenario if you remember that big freeze of, was it 2020, 2021, where Texas couldn't handle it? Well, Oklahoma could. I lost power for several hours overnight. I think it was overnight we lost power. And my house was cold. I have a giant window right here, so my office is always either colder or hotter, depending on the season. And I remember I was bundled up. It was dark, and my computer brightness is all the way up to make it work. So think about that, because my hotspot, it drained what little power I had left of my phone, and that was it. I had one class in me. So consider that. Other tech issues, your student side. This is where you really learn how to think on your feet. And I remember the first time I had some tech issues, I could feel my heart because I didn't want it to be blamed on me when I knew it was not me. So what I do for this is, first off, I pull up all my stuff and I take screenshots of everything working so that if it does come back on me, I can send in my proof and say, hey, all of my stuff was working. This was not me. I have actually not ever had to use my proof, but it made me feel better. So however you take screenshots, whether you have a PC or Mac, learn the keyboard shortcuts and learn how to do it quickly, because then you move over to your students and you start troubleshooting with your students. And usually they need to move closer to the router. Usually their internet is weak because they're in a rural area, because they don't have a strong enough internet connection. They don't pay for the plan because it's just bogged down, or they're using their parents' phone. Those have all been situations that I've had, and you can't always fix it. So one thing we do to help kind of decrease the strain for them is to tell them to turn off their camera. And I don't love that solution because I love to see them and it helps me kind of see their understanding. But if you need to do it, do it. A lot of places encourage cameras on. So leave that only for when they're having tech issues and you've kind of exhausted other ways of doing it. Like they've moved closer, they've changed their internet and all of these things. They also, another tech issue I've noticed them having is their cameras don't work or their microphones don't work. So I had one just last week in my classes. He takes small group math lessons at school, and the headset he got, he could hear me fine, but his microphone wasn't working. So we troubleshooted it. Is it plugged in all the way? Is your, like if you're on Zoom or Google Meet, is that the microphone that's selected or is it another one? So a couple ways around that. They can obviously, if they can, get a new one, or they can unplug their headphones when they're trying to talk and they're like Chromebook or whatever their computer will pick up the mic, and then they can plug it back in and you're back in their ears. And it's tedious, but it works. You can also resort to the chat, but they're notoriously slow typers, so be prepared for that. There's so many more tech issues you can have, and I hate that I can't give you every single answer, but every tech issue is different, and sometimes they pop in and out, and you're just waiting for them to come back, and you are making the best lesson you can with it. And you just mention it just really gently in the feedback. If you give feedback afterwards, like, hey, I noticed they had tech issues. We did the best we could, but we didn't get to this. So cover this, or we're going to cover this next time. Just kind of mention it offhand, like, hey, not my fault, and just be really gentle about it. So another challenge that you can have is student engagement, because they are very used to being in the classroom with their teacher. And this is why I really encourage you to have cameras on, unless, like I said, tech issues are preventing it, because you can really totally see their focus. And even though I can't see their computer screen, I can tell when they're distracted with another website, which we will get to in just a second. So if their cameras are on, you can see if their eyes have glazed over. You can see if they're zoning off somewhere else. It is a skill set you learn and develop, how to keep students engaged as you teach online. So you're taught this in the classroom if you went to school to be a teacher. We learned all these things, but so many of them have to do with actually being physically present. And so I have tweaked them and used what I learned in school, and implemented it and changed it for my online classroom. And that's a video for another day. I will link it above once I've got it made. But student engagement. So you're going to learn your students, you're going to learn you as a teacher, and you're going to learn how to keep them engaged. And some of my favorite things to do are bring props. So all around my office, I have just stuff I use. And I've actually packed some away because what I do now doesn't necessarily lend itself to props, but I have whiteboards. I write on these a lot. This needs a deep cleaning. I have some finger puppets. This was specifically for VIP Kid. This is their mascot, Dino, but there was also a boy and a girl and a pencil and an apple. And there were a lot of things we could do with those, and it's also just fun. Rewards are a lot of fun. So I would give students stars. I just cut these out on like my Cricut machine. You can buy them online, really cheap. You can use scissors, whatever you got, make it cheap. We use some dye. I actually stole these out of a board game. I have to put them back. So get creative and use what you have to bring your students back. If you caught one of my recent reels or TikToks, I also like to bring out this baby. And this is a wig from my bachelorette party. We went to a wig party down in Austin. And I literally just throw it on. It's a lot of fun. Go check that out on my Instagram or my TikTok if you are interested. It really helps them what we call buy into the lesson. So I wear that wig just coming in, and it's kind of a shock factor. They're like, what the heck is going on? Because I don't make it look good. I leave my hair under it and it's just shoved on there. And so it brings in that shock factor and they buy into the lesson. And there's a lot of things you can do with that. I mentioned the ig sound. So wig, pig, big. You can also talk about it, the word itself, the color, tons of stuff you can do, right? So braid what you have, your stuff, your kids' stuff. If you have kids, you probably do. Your stuff, your kids' stuff, and use what you already have. Don't spend a ton of money, okay? So the next biggest thing is distractions. So you face these in the physical classroom as well as the online classroom. And the biggest distraction I see in the online classroom is the internet itself. They have the internet at their fingertips and they know it. So a lot of times you will see them looking very, very busy, but you do not see any work on your end. And that's always how I know they're into something else. So again, just last week, I have a student. He's like right there he's either going to, in our math sessions, figure it out and fly with it, or he's going to remain stuck, and it's going to be because of his distractions. Because I see him working diligently. He is very focused on something. But when I look on my teacher screen of our math lesson, he has done no work. And so that's what I know. He is very distracted, and he needs to come back and refocus on the lesson. So that's one way you can use to tell if they're on other websites, because we don't have the ability to grab from their screen. One way it can help is if mom or dad is sitting with them, but you don't usually have that luxury. So just be prepared. Like I said, I'm in the classroom, but this teacher is monitoring like 30 students. I don't know his number. And he's not always going to see my student on that other website. They know how to flip over really fast. We all do. We've all learned how to do these things. So that's one thing you can look for. Another thing they're really distracted with, if you teach the littles, I experience this a lot in the ESL world, is toys. They bring their toys with them, and I always encourage it, but they also need to put it away when it's time. One way you can work around this is to kind of weave it into your lesson. So if you're working on sentences, this is dino. You could say this is the letter D. These are headphones. So work their toy into the lesson so it has a purpose and they're not just playing with it. And then you nicely say, okay, put it down now. And then if they get distracted again, practice those sentences again. Because if you're ESL, they're going to need that practice. If they're not ESL and they're bringing toys, you can still weave it in. You can use it as a reward. Say, okay, you have 10 seconds to play with Barbie or whatever it is. Just weave it in somehow, and it makes them feel good. And it also helps you control, it's classroom management. It helps you control that classroom and the lesson and the student, and then they hopefully put it away. Another big distraction, if they're taking class at home or at school, actually, is family members or other classmates. So in the ESL world, family members were a big distraction. If you couldn't see them on screen, you sure could hear them. Some of them have very loud households, and some of my students I would notice were very distracted by it because they're looking in the direction of the sound. So then you're trying to weave them back in. I remember, my ears hurt after those lessons. And then in my in-classroom lessons, it's other students. There is a student in one of my sessions. He's with a different tutor, but I know his name. So you have those distractions too, where you're trying to bring it back and you're gently, hey, come back to me. Don't worry about what's going on over there. So you learn how to do that. You learn how to manage it and see when it's happening. Homework. A lot of students like to use your time as homework time, but it is not homework time because your time is important. I don't care if you're certified or not, if you're a fun class or not, your time is important because you're being paid for what you're doing. Whether you're being paid by mom or dad or whether you're being paid by a school district, your time is important, and the students should honor that. It's a great lesson for them to learn for the real life. So be firm on that. Tell them to put their homework away. They can do it later. And I realize some kids are stressed, especially if you're teaching ESL in the Asian countries. My students were very stressed with homework. I remember a lot of them that were old enough and proficient enough would be telling me all about it. But parents are paying a lot of money for that, so you need to make sure that they're honoring that time, your time, and their parents' money. And if you need to, bring that homework in. See what I'm doing? You always try to bring what they're doing in and make it valuable and important for that time, and then they can put it away. And then books. If you have some bookworms, they might be reading a book. This happened in the ESL world a lot too, not so much in the classroom because we are working on math and their books aren't out. But there are instances when I have them pull out a book, like we're doing a pre or a post assessment, and there's just enough time that they need to read a book. But with all that being said, there are distractions in the online classroom. This is not a full list, but these are the most common ones. And these are actually ones you learn very quickly how to manage and how to work around. And some of them become fun. Like, I love to see their toys now. And it's a good challenge for me to figure out how I can bring this new toy that I've never had in my online classes and make it a good time. So start thinking about that as you're applying and as you're starting your lessons. Think what you're going to do to help yourself in these situations. So whether it's tech issues and you have a step-by-step list of what you can start troubleshooting with your students, write it down. If you need to get translations, get some just quick Google translations. They're not great, but it's sometimes better than nothing. And have step-by-step. So when I first started, I had lists, right? Tech issues, take screenshots. I had a sticky note, and then I had the keyboard shortcut to get a screenshot. And I also had a file for it on my computer, and I learned. And now it's second nature to me, so I don't need it as much, but they're great to have. And then distractions. Start bringing your own distractions in if you have to. And those are great too for like a brain break. So like this, the stars, whatever you've got to bring in. I really love the rewards. A lot of teachers like magnetize or Velcro these, and they have somewhere they stick them. So they have like 5 or however many yours are. So start thinking about what kind of teacher you want to be and how you want to handle these situations, because that way when you do get in those situations, you're not so frazzled. You will be frazzled. I will not lie to you about that. But you will have a plan of action, and you will know how to go from start to finish to get the lesson back on track. All right, I hope this was helpful. Next week, we are talking about some of those teaching strategies. So get ready, because I've got a lot. Again, if you are ready to get started, head on over to onlineteacherallison.com/get started. It's going to give you a list of everything you need to consider. And onlineteacherallison.com/platform will match you with the best platform to get started based off your experience, your time, your pay, and who you are as a teacher. Both are completely free to you, and they will be sent to your email inbox automatically. All right, I hope you have a great day, and we'll chat soon.